Captain Mara Levin gazed through the panoramic viewport of the scout frigate Aurora's Blade as it drifted through the outer reaches of the Edgefall sector. The nebula stretched before her, a gossamer tapestry of radiant gases and distant stars, its beauty belying the danger it represented. Edgefall was Council frontier space, barely charted and rarely patrolled, the perfect place to disappear, or to find something that wasn't supposed to exist. Captain, scanners have picked up an anomaly, called Ensign Talia from the pilot station. The young officer's voice cracked with excitement. This was her first deep space mission since graduating from the academy. Her slender fingers worked the navigation console with practiced precision despite her nerves. It appears to be a derelict probe, Council issue, adrift near the dead star. Mara straightened her uniform jacket, the silver insignia of the scout fleet catching the dim light of the bridge. Trajectory and status? A minimal power signature, ma'am. Looks like it's been floating out here for months, maybe years. Lieutenant Jax Collis stepped up beside Mara, his tall frame casting a shadow across the command deck. 10 credits says it's just another broken weather monitor. His mouth quirked into the easy grin that had made him popular with the crew despite, or perhaps because of, his checkered past. Before being assigned as Mara's second-in-command, Jax had captained his own vessel, until he'd lost it, along with 27 crew members, in what official records called an unfortunate navigational error. Mara knew better. She'd read the uncensored files. "I'll take that bet," she replied, matching his lightness despite the tension crawling up her spine. Something about this didn't feel routine. "Ensign Talia, bring us alongside. Lieutenant Collis, prepare a retrieval team." As the bridge crew moved to execute her orders, Dr. Sin Vorna appeared at Mara's side. The ship's psychologist rarely visited the command deck without reason. "Captain," Vorna said softly, her 4 eyes blinking in sequence, a sign of intellectual curiosity in her species. "May I observe the retrieval? I've been studying Council propaganda regarding certain forbidden topics. This probe may have collected data that could prove valuable to my research." Mara suppressed a sigh. Vorna's research was an open secret aboard the Aurora's Blade, a fascination with human legends that bordered on obsession. The Council of Seven declared such interest heretical, punishable by rehabilitation at best, execution at worst. Yet Mara had always allowed Vorna her academic freedom. After all, myths were just myths. "Very well, Doctor, but remember the protocol." "Official channels only, I understand, Captain." The Aurora's Blade glided toward the derelict probe, its sleek hull reflecting the distant starlight. As they drew closer, Mara's unease deepened. The probe was indeed Council issue, but its design was unlike anything in the standard catalogs. Its hull bore scorch marks consistent with weapons fire. "Lieutenant Collis, belay retrieval. Let's scan it first." Jax nodded, relief flashing across his features. Since the incident that cost him his command, he'd developed an almost preternatural sense for danger. "Initiating deep scan," he reported, fingers dancing across the console. Minutes passed in tense silence as the scan data compiled. When the results appeared on the main screen, a collective gasp rippled through the bridge. "Captain," Jax whispered, "the probe's memory core contains video logs, and they show—" "Show what, Lieutenant?" Mara demanded, though something in her already knew. "A ship, ma'am. A design we've never seen before. The logs identify it as—" He swallowed hard. "Human." The word hung in the air like a blasphemy. "Download everything," Mara ordered, her voice steady despite the implications. Humans were fairy tales, cautionary fables told to Council children, violent, unpredictable creatures who had either extinguished themselves or been banished to the dark spaces beyond known space. To even suggest their continued existence was to invite council scrutiny. To prove it was suicide. A download at 60%, Talia reported, her earlier excitement replaced by dread. Dr. Vorna moved closer to the screen, her eyes wide with wonder. After all this time, she murmured, actual evidence. The alarm klaxon cut her off mid-sentence. The probe's surface had begun to glow, pulsing with increasing intensity. It's rigged to self-destruct, Jax shouted. Shields up, Talia, get us out of here. I download at 87%, Talia countered, her hands steady even as fear painted her features. We can still get it all. Mara hesitated for only a heartbeat. Hold position. Complete the download. The seconds stretched into eternity as the download bar crept toward completion. At 99%, the probe exploded in a silent flash that rocked the Aurora's blade despite its shields. I download complete, Talia announced, a tremor in her voice. But Captain, the probe's destruction triggered an automated message burst. An alert code Omega just went out to all council frequencies. Mara's blood ran cold. Code Omega, human contact, the highest emergency protocol in council space. All hands to battle stations, she commanded. Prepare for... Captain, Jax interrupted, pointing to the long-range scanner. Multiple warship signatures just decloaked at the edge of the sector. They're moving fast, and that lead vessel... The main screen shifted to show a massive dreadnought leading a flotilla of destroyers, its silhouette unmistakable even at this distance. The Oblivion's Hand, flagship of Commander Thrax Valor, the Council's most zealous heresy hunter. Mara felt the weight of 120 lives settle onto her shoulders, her crew, her responsibility. The right choice was clear. Destroy the logs, claim scanner malfunction, and hope Valor would be merciful. But the captain had not risen through council ranks by making the right choices. She'd risen by making the necessary ones. Talia, plot a course through the densest part of the nebula. Jax, I want those logs encrypted and hidden in the ship's auxiliary systems. She turned to Dr. Vorna. Doctor, you've got what you wanted. Now help us survive it. I need you to analyze those logs, find anything we can use. As the bridge erupted into activity, Mara moved to the communications station. And someone get me a secure channel to the archivist circle. We're going to need friends where we're headed. In the command chamber of the Oblivion's Hand. Commander Thrax Valor watched the scout frigate's escape vector with cold calculation. His scaled hands clasped behind his back, posture rigid as the durasteel bulkheads surrounding him. They're running, observed his tactical officer. Shall we pursue immediately? Valor's mandibles clicked softly. A sound his subordinates had learned to recognize as dangerous contemplation. No. The nebula will slow them. Let them think they've escaped while we position the fleet to cut off all exit vectors. He stepped closer to the holographic display showing the Aurora's blade's trajectory. That ship holds evidence of the greatest lie in Council history. The myth that almost destroyed us once. Humans. His voice dropped to a whisper as memories surfaced. Memories of his homeworld Krath, devastated by a mysterious plague centuries ago. The official records cited natural disaster. But Valor had seen his grandfather's hidden journals. They spoke of strange vessels bearing creatures that walked on two legs, who came with promises of medicine but left only death. Humans. This time, he vowed, we will extinguish the myth completely. Back aboard the Aurora's blade, Mara had gathered her senior officers in the conference room adjacent to the bridge. The ship hurtled through the nebula's swirling gases, buying them precious time. But everyone knew it wouldn't last. The archivist circle has responded. Jax reported. They're offering sanctuary in their primary base in the Skull Caverns. It's deep in the nebula, shielded from standard sensors. The archivists, Lieutenant Commander Oryx, the ship's tactical officer, scoffed. Religious fanatics and conspiracy theorists, we'd be better off surrendering to Velor. Those fanatics have the most comprehensive collection of pre-council history in the galaxy. Dr. Vorna countered. If anyone can authenticate our discovery, it's them. Mara studied the faces around the table, officers she'd handpicked for their skills and loyalty. Now she was leading them into heresy and probable death. What about the logs, Doctor? What have you found? Vorna activated a holographic display. Fragmented images flickered into existence. A vessel unlike any in Council records, blocky, utilitarian, reinforced steel hull bristling with what appeared to be kinetic weapon systems. Ancient technology, but built to a scale that suggested frightening power. The probe recorded approximately 3 minutes of footage before it was damaged. Vorna explained. The vessel appears suddenly, possibly from some form of faster-than-light travel, and attempts communication. Communication? Mara leaned forward. What did they say? Most of the audio is corrupted, but I've managed to extract one phrase. Vorna touched a control, and a distorted voice echoed through the room. Love and peace, friendship, alliance. A heavy silence fell over the conference room. It could be a trick, Oryx suggested. The humans in the legends were master deceivers. Or the legends themselves were the deception, Dr. Vorna countered. Think about it. The Council has systematically eliminated all pre-unification history. What if humans weren't the monsters we've been taught to fear? Jax ran a hand through his close-cropped hair. Does it matter? The Council will atomize us just for possessing these logs. We need to think about survival first. Philosophy later. Mara nodded. Agreed. Set course for the Skull Caverns, maximum stealth protocols. She rose from her seat. But make copies of those logs. If we don't make it, I want this truth to survive. As the officers dispersed to their stations, Jax lingered behind. When they were alone, his carefully maintained facade of confidence slipped. Mara, he said softly, using her first name as he only did in private. This is exactly how it started last time. A discovery, a choice. I made the wrong one, and 27 people died. Mara studied her friend's face, seeing the ghosts that haunted him. This is different, Jack. We're not chasing a promotion or a medal, aren't we? His smile turned bitter. I know you, Mara. You've been gunning for Admiral stars since the Academy. This discovery could make your career if it doesn't end it first. The accusation stung because it contained truth. Ambition had always driven Mara, pushed her to take risks others wouldn't. But this was bigger than career advancement. Maybe I have been chasing recognition, she admitted. But right now, I'm just trying to do what's right. For the crew. For history. She placed a hand on his shoulder. I need you with me, Jax. Not just your skills, your perspective. You've seen how decisions can go wrong. Help me avoid the same mistakes. Some of the tension left his body. Always, Captain, I just hope we live long enough for it to matter. As Jax left, Mara turned to the viewport, watching the nebula's colorful gases swirl past. Somewhere out there, Velor was hunting them. And somewhere, perhaps, humans were waiting, either as the monsters of legend or as something else entirely. Either way, the galaxy was about to change. Ensign Talia's hands trembled slightly as she navigated the treacherous currents of the nebula. The gaseous clouds played havoc with sensors, forcing her to rely more on instinct than instrumentation. 3 months out of the Academy, and here she was, piloting a fugitive vessel through one of the most dangerous regions of space. "Steady, Ensign," Mara said from behind her, voice calm despite the proximity alerts flashing across the tactical display. "You're doing fine." "Thank you, Captain," Talia replied, drawing strength from her commander's confidence. "Estimated arrival at the Skull Caverns in 17 minutes. Jack studied the sensor readings with growing concern. "Captain, I'm detecting unusual movement patterns in the nebula's eastern quadrant. Could be Council scout drones." Mara frowned. "They've deployed drones already? Velor's more determined than I thought." She tapped her communication implant. "Dr. Vorna, status on the log analysis?" "Making progress, Captain," came the psychologist's voice. "I've isolated several more audio fragments. The human vessel identified itself as the Horizon Breaker, part of something called the Terran Alliance. They were attempting to establish diplomatic contact." "Diplomatic?" Mara exchanged glances with Jax. "That contradicts everything in Council teachings. Precisely why the Council might have suppressed this information." Vorna replied. "There's more. The logs indicate the probe initially responded peacefully, but then received an override command from a Council dreadnought." Mara's tactical mind made the connection immediately. They were ordered to attack the human ship. This wasn't a random encounter, it was an ambush. Before Vorna could respond, the ship lurched violently. Warning klaxons blared as the lighting shifted to emergency red. "A direct hit port side," Oryx shouted from tactical. "Drone swarm, closing fast." "Evasive maneuvers," Mara ordered, bracing against her command chair as the ship banked sharply. "Defensive countermeasures, pattern theta." Talia's inexperience showed as she overcompensated, sending the ship into a spiral that brought them dangerously close to a dense gas pocket. Mara saw the young ensign's confidence faltering. "You can do this, Talia," she encouraged. "Remember your training. Feel the ship." The ensign took a deep breath, steadied her hands, and executed a complex series of maneuvers that left two pursuing drones colliding with each other in a bright flash of destruction. "Nice flying, rookie," Jax called out, genuine admiration in his voice. "Now do it again with the other 10 on our tail." Despite the danger. Talia laughed, a sound of relief and growing confidence. She banked the ship hard, diving into a particularly dense cloud formation that offered momentary cover. "Approaching the Skull Caverns," she reported. "But those drones will be on us again the moment we emerge from this cloud." Jack studied the tactical display, then grinned suddenly. "Not if they can't see us." He pointed to a nearby asteroid cluster. "Talia, on my mark. Cut main engines and switch to maneuvering thrusters only. We'll drift into that asteroid field silent running, then power up just enough to reach the caverns. The asteroid's mineral composition should mask our signature." Mara nodded approval. "Do it." The maneuver was risky, with main engines offline. They'd be vulnerable if discovered. But Jax's instincts proved correct. The drone swarm swept past their position, sensors confused by the asteroid field's natural interference. "That won't fool them for long," Oryx warned, "and certainly not Velor. He'll have analyzed our flight patterns by now." "We don't need long," Mara replied. "Just enough to reach the archivists." She turned to communications. "Send the recognition codes the archivists provided. Let's hope these conspiracy theorists are as well organized as they claim." Minutes later, the Aurora's blade approached what appeared to be an ordinary asteroid cluster. But as they drew closer, a narrow fissure became visible in the largest asteroid, a fissure that widened as hidden mechanisms activated, revealing a concealed docking bay inside what truly resembled a massive stone skull. "The Skull Caverns," Dr. Vorna whispered with reverence. "I never thought I'd actually see them." As the ship slipped inside and the entrance sealed behind them, the crew of the Aurora's Blade got their first look at the legendary home of the Archivist Circle. The interior of the asteroid had been hollowed out into a vast cavern, its walls lined with thousands of data storage units glowing with soft blue light. Bioluminescent fungi grew in cultivated patterns, providing both illumination and breathtaking beauty. Smaller vessels were docked throughout the space, many of designs predating Council standardization. A welcome party awaited them at the landing pad, a diverse group representing species from across Council space, all wearing the distinctive indigo robes of the Archivist Circle. Captain Levin called their apparent leader, a tall, willowy being with translucent skin through which complex circulatory systems were visible. "I am Keeper Lauren. Welcome to Sanctuary. We've awaited your arrival with great anticipation." Mara led a small delegation down the boarding ramp, keeping her expression neutral despite her amazement at the hidden base. "Thank you for your hospitality, Keeper. Though I must warn you, our pursuit is not far behind." "We are aware," Lauren replied calmly. "Your vessel was followed by no fewer than 3 drone squadrons. Our defenses have neutralized 2 thus far, but Commander Velor's flagship has altered course directly for our position. It seems you've stirred the hive." "Captain, we've discovered evidence that humans are not extinct," Dr. Vorna interjected, unable to contain her excitement. "And that the Council's historical narrative about them may be false." Lauren's inner light pulsed briefly, an indication of strong emotion in their species. "Then the prophecies were correct. The truth-bearers have come." They gestured toward the heart of the cavern. "Please, bring your evidence to the Central Archives. Time is short, and there is much to discuss." As they followed the Keeper through the cavern, Mara noticed her crew's reactions. Talia gaped openly at the wonders around them, while Jax maintained a practiced wariness, eyes constantly scanning for threats or escape routes. Dr. Vorna had fallen into animated conversation with another archivist, their discussion peppered with references to pre-Council artifacts and forbidden texts. The Central Archives proved to be a circular chamber at the asteroid's core, where hundreds of data terminals surrounded a holographic projection system of astonishing complexity. "This technology predates the Council by centuries," Lauren explained, noting their surprise. "We've preserved it, along with the knowledge the Council would rather erase." "Why?" Mara asked. "What's so dangerous about humans that the Council would go to such lengths to deny their existence?" Keeper Lauren activated the central projector. Images flickered to life, star charts, ancient battle footage, diplomatic meetings between Council species and bipedal creatures that could only be humans. "It's not that humans were dangerous, Captain," Lauren said softly. "It's that they were powerful. And worse, they were kind." "Kind?" Jack scoffed. "The stories say they were genocidal monsters." "Stories crafted by the victors," another archivist countered. "Humans were the architects of the original Galactic Alliance, the predecessor to the Council. They helped species achieve spaceflight, mediated conflicts, shared resources freely." "Then why erase them?" Mara demanded. Lauren's expression darkened. "Because several of the founding species of the current Council desired expansion without human ethical constraints. They orchestrated a series of false flag attacks, blamed on humans, to justify a purge. Most believed humans were exterminated. A few of us preserved the truth that some escaped to unknown regions of space. And now they've returned," Dr. Vorna concluded, her 4 eyes wide with wonder. An alarm blared through the chamber before Lauren could respond. A younger archivist rushed in, panic evident in their movements. "A Keeper. Council vessels have breached our outer defenses. The Oblivion's hand leads them. They've deployed boarding crafts." Lauren turned to Mara, suddenly looking much older. It seems our time for academic discussion has ended, Captain. Now we must decide whether this truth is worth dying for. The sound of distant explosions punctuated their words. Commander Thrax Velor stood on the bridge of the Oblivion's Hand, watching with satisfaction as his ship's railguns pounded the asteroid's surface. Each impact sent satisfying tremors through the hidden base beneath. "Life signs?" he inquired. "Of several hundred, Commander," his sensor officer reported. "Concentrated in the central chambers. The Aurora's Blade's crew appears to be among them." Velor nodded. "Prepare boarding parties. I want Captain Levin and her senior officers taken alive. They must stand public trial for their heresy. The archivists." His mandibles clicked decisively. "No survivors. Their collection is to be confiscated intact." "Sir," his executive officer ventured cautiously, "some of the data we're detecting predates Council formation. The historical value is precisely why it must be controlled." Velor cut him off. "History is a weapon, Commander Stell. In the wrong hands, it can destroy civilizations." He turned back to the viewport, watching as boarding craft launched toward the asteroid. "I've spent my life protecting our people from the human threat. I will not fail now that they've returned." Inside the skull caverns, chaos reigned. Explosions rocked the structure as Council weapons found weak points in the asteroid's natural armor. Archivists rushed to secure their most precious data cores while others manned ancient defense systems that hummed to life after centuries of dormancy. Mara gathered her officers in a defensive position near the central archives. "Options?" she demanded. "The Aurora's Blade can't outrun Velor's dreadnought," Jax said grimly. "Even if we reached it, we'd be atomized before clearing the asteroid field." "The archivists have escape pods," Talia suggested. "When small, stealthy, we could scatter, try to reach neutral space." Oryx shook his head. "And abandon our ship, our evidence? That's exactly what Velor wants." Dr. Vorna, who had been conferring with Keeper Loren over a data terminal, suddenly straightened. "Captain, the archivists have been attempting to transmit our findings, the human ship logs, on all frequencies." "To whom?" Mara asked. "Everyone," Loren answered, "and no one in particular. A desperate hope that someone might hear, but the Council is jamming all outgoing communications." A plan began to form in Mara's mind. Risky, potentially suicidal, but with a slim chance of success. Our ship's quantum transmitter might be powerful enough to punch through the jamming, but I'd need to get back aboard and reconfigure it manually. "Through a battlefield?" Jax asked incredulously. "That's suicide." "Not necessarily," Mara countered. "Talia's our best pilot. If we can create enough of a distraction, she might be able to fly a small team back to the ship using one of the archivist's transport crafts." Before anyone could respond, the chamber's massive doors buckled under a powerful impact. Council boarding parties had reached the inner sanctum. And no time for debate. Mara decided, "No, Jax, you and Oryx hold this position with half our security detail. Dr. Vorna, prepare the complete logs for transmission. Talia, you're with me. Find us a transport. Now." As her crew rushed to execute orders, Mara turned to Keeper Loren. "If we fail, destroy everything. Don't let Velor rewrite history again." The Keeper clasped Mara's hand in both of theirs. "May the wisdom of those who came before guide your path, Captain." Another explosion, closer this time, sent dust and rock fragments cascading from the ceiling. Mara and Talia sprinted toward the auxiliary hangar, ducking as energy weapons fire erupted behind them. The sounds of battle echoed through the corridors, Council troops engaging with archivist defenders. They reached the hangar to find it partially collapsed, but a single transport remained intact, a sleek, ancient design clearly built for speed rather than combat. "Can you fly it?" Mara asked as they clambered aboard. Talia ran her hands over the unfamiliar controls, a slow smile spreading across her face despite the danger. "It's primitive, but the principles are the same. Strap in, Captain. This won't be smooth." The transport shot from the hangar like a missile, immediately drawing fire from Council vessels surrounding the asteroid. Talia proved her worth as a pilot, executing maneuvers that seemed to defy physics, using the asteroid's irregular surface as cover. There, Mara pointed toward a gap in the Council formation where the Aurora's blade remained docked. "Can you get us through?" "Oh, probably," Talia replied, her focus absolute. "But they'll lock onto us the moment we break cover. And then we'll just have to be faster than their targeting systems." Talia nodded grimly, then sent their craft into a spinning dive that momentarily confused the Council gunners. She used that split-second advantage to maximum effect, accelerating toward the Aurora's blade at dangerous velocity. They crashed more than docked, the transport's hull screaming in protest as Talia executed an emergency landing in the Aurora's blade's shuttle bay. "Get to the bridge," Mara ordered as they stumbled from the smoking transport. "Prepare for immediate departure." "What about you, Captain?" "I'm heading to engineering, and I need to modify the quantum transmitter personally." They separated, racing through the empty corridors of their ship. Mara reached engineering in minutes, her hands flying over the transmitter controls. She'd need to bypass multiple safety protocols, essentially turning the communication device into an unshielded burst transmitter. The radiation backlash would likely fry the system completely and possibly kill anyone in the vicinity. But it would get the message out. As she worked, the ship shuddered under sudden impact. Council forces had noticed the activity and were now targeting the Aurora's blade directly. "Hey, Captain!" Talia's voice came through the comm system. "Multiple boarding craft approaching. Estimate 3 minutes until breach. The battle inside the cavern isn't going well either. Lieutenant Collis reports they're being pushed back to the archives." "Understood. Begin engine warm-up sequence, but hold position. We need to time this perfectly." Mara connected the final circuit in her jury-rigged transmitter. "Transmitter ready. Upload Dr. Vorna's package to the main buffer." "Uploading now," Talia confirmed. "Captain, there's something else. Long-range sensors just detected an anomaly at the edge of the system. It's big, and it's not broadcasting any recognition codes I've ever seen." Mara's pulse quickened. "Can you get a visual?" "Trying. Got it. Putting it on your terminal now." The image that appeared on Mara's screen stole her breath. A massive vessel, easily twice the size of Oblivion's hand, was approaching at incredible speed. Its design matched the ship from the probe logs. "Human." "Talia, broadcast the logs now, full power," Mara ordered, even as warning lights flashed across her console. The transmitter was already overheating, radiation warnings blinking red. "Broadcasting, but Captain, you need to get out of there, the radiation levels." "I just keep broadcasting." Mara staggered back from the console as the heat became unbearable. Her skin tingled painfully as radiation washed over her, but she forced herself to remain conscious. "And prepare to assist our new arrivals." In the Central Archives, Jax and the remaining crew of the Aurora's blade fought alongside the archivists in a desperate last stand. They'd been pushed back to the central chamber, Council troops advancing methodically behind portable shield generators. Commander Velor himself strode through the front line, his ornate armor gleaming under the bioluminescent light. "Surrender the human data, and your deaths will be quick," he announced. "Continue this futile resistance, and you'll experience the full creativity of Council justice." Jax, bleeding from a wound to his shoulder, managed a defiant grin. You know what your problem is, Velor? You talk too much. He fired a final shot from his depleted energy pistol, which dissipated harmlessly against the commander's personal shield. Velor raised his own weapon, aiming directly at Jax's head. Your humor dies with you, Lieutenant. Before he could fire, the entire cavern shook violently, not from weapons fire, but from a massive impact that seemed to resonate through the very rock itself. Dust and stone fragments rained down as the tremors continued. Report, Velor demanded into his communicator. What's happening? His tactical officer's voice came back filled with barely controlled panic. Sir, massive vessel just dropped out of faster than light, like nothing we've ever seen. It's firing on our fleet. Impossible, Velor snarled. Nothing could penetrate our formation without... A section of the cavern ceiling exploded inward, sending Council troops diving for cover. Through the newly created aperture, armored figures descended on grappling lines, humanoid in shape, wearing advanced combat suits with built-in weapon systems that immediately opened fire on Council positions. Fall back, Velor ordered, his disciplined mind recognizing the sudden shift in tactical advantage. All troops, return to transport vessels. As the Council forces retreated in disarray, one of the armored figures approached Jax and the defenders. The helmet retracted, revealing a face disturbingly similar to Council anatomical diagrams of humans. 2 eyes, single nasal opening, small ears on either side of the head. Lieutenant Collis? The human asked in slightly accented but perfect common language. Captain Reynolds, Terran Alliance vessel, Defiant. I believe you've been looking for us. Jax could only stare in disbelief. How did you, to him? We received your transmission, partial, corrupted, but enough to pinpoint your location. Captain Reynolds surveyed the battle-damaged archives. We've been monitoring Council space for decades, waiting for the right moment to re-establish contact. Your captain's bravery made that possible. Dr. Vorna pushed forward, her scientific curiosity overcoming her shock. You're really human. Reynolds smiled, an expression remarkably similar across species. Last time I checked, and you must be Dr. Vorna. Your captain spoke highly of you in the transmission. Imara, Jax interrupted, is she alive, but suffering severe radiation exposure? Our medical team is treating her aboard your vessel now. Reynolds' expression turned serious. The Council fleet is regrouping. They've called for reinforcements. If we're going to get your people to safety, it needs to be now. In the medical bay of the human battle cruiser Defiant, Captain Mara Levin drifted in and out of consciousness. The radiation poisoning had been severe. Without the advanced human medical technology, she would certainly have died. As it was, her recovery remained uncertain. She became aware of voices nearby, Jax, Dr. Vorna, and others she didn't recognize. How many ships responded to your call? Jax was asking. 3 battle groups, replied a voice she assumed belonged to Captain Reynolds. Enough to make the Council reconsider their strategy, but not enough for a prolonged conflict. That's not our goal anyway. What is your goal? Dr. Vorna inquired. The same as it's always been, peaceful cooperation. The Council's founding species twisted the narrative, painted us as monsters to justify their power grab. We retreated rather than fight a galaxy-wide war. But we never stopped watching, waiting for the right moment. And you think now is that moment? Jax sounded skeptical. Your captain does, Reynolds replied. Her transmission included a proposal, one we find intriguing. Mara struggled to open her eyes, finally managing to focus on the figures surrounding her bed. Jax looked battle-worn but alive. Dr. Vorna's 4 eyes blinked rapidly in excitement, and beside them stood a human, tall, with dark skin and close-cropped gray hair, wearing a uniform adorned with unfamiliar insignia. "Captain Levin," Reynolds greeted her, noticing her consciousness. "Welcome back." "Did it work?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Reynolds nodded. "Your plan, it's bold, risky, possibly brilliant." Mara managed a weak smile. "Those are my favorite kind." In the command center of the Oblivion's hand, Commander Thrax Velor faced the most difficult decision of his career. 3 human battle cruisers held position against his fleet, their weapons demonstrably superior based on the ease with which they had disabled 2 of his escort vessels. "Communication incoming from the human flagship," his comm officer reported, "and from the Aurora's blade." "On screen," Velor ordered, mandibles clicking in agitation. The display split to show both Captain Reynolds and Captain Levin, the latter looking pale but determined from what appeared to be a medical facility. "Commander Velor," Mara began without preamble, "I'm transmitting to you the complete, unaltered logs recovered from your probe. They prove what the archivists have claimed for centuries. Humans attempted peaceful contact with the Council, only to be attacked without provocation." "Heresy," Velor spat. "Fabrications. The logs contain authentication codes that can be verified against Council archives." Mara continued unfazed. "But more importantly, you now face the living proof of human existence. The question is, what will you do with this truth?" Captain Reynolds spoke next. "Commander, the Terran Alliance has no desire for war. We propose a test, a single joint operation against a mutual threat. The Scourge has been attacking both our territories for decades. Let us demonstrate our intentions through actions rather than words." "And if I refuse?" Velor challenged. "Then we disappear again," Reynolds replied simply. "Taking with us the Aurora's blade, its crew, and all archivists who wish asylum. You report whatever fiction preserves your career, and the Council continues its slow decline into irrelevance." Velor's tactical mind raced. The humans could have destroyed his fleet already. Their restraint suggested truth in their peaceful claims. Moreover, the Scourge had indeed become an increasing problem for Council worlds, a mysterious species that attacked without warning or apparent motive. "Commander," his executive officer whispered, "several captains in the fleet are requesting clarification of orders. They're confused by the humans' actions. The crew is talking, and therein lay the real danger. Once doubt entered the carefully constructed Council narrative, it would spread like a virus. Better to control the revelation than be consumed by it." "I will review your evidence," Velor said finally, "and consider your proposal. But know this, if I detect any deception, any threat to Council sovereignty, I will personally lead the armada that burns your worlds to ash." Reynolds nodded gravely. "Fair enough. We'll await your decision." As the communication ended, Velor turned to his bridge crew. "Analyze every frame of those logs. I want absolute verification." "And if they're authentic, sir?" his executive officer asked quietly. Velor stared out at the human vessels, so different from Council design yet undeniably advanced. "Then we adapt. Commander Stell, as all successful species must." 3 days later, representatives from the Council and the Terran Alliance met aboard a neutral vessel, an archivist ship reconfigured for diplomatic functions. Captain Mara Levin, still recovering but insistent on attending, sat alongside Dr. Vorna and Lieutenant Collis as the historic meeting commenced. Commander Velor entered flanked by Council security, his posture rigid but no longer openly hostile. Captain Reynolds led the human delegation with a relaxed confidence that belied the tension in the room. "The Council has verified the authenticity of the probe logs," Velor announced without prelude. While this raises troubling questions about our historical records, it does not automatically validate all archivist claims. Agreed, Reynolds replied. Which is why we propose actions over arguments. The Scourge fleet threatening the Krell system provides an opportunity to demonstrate our intentions. Velor's mandibles twitched, the closest his species came to a smile. Interesting that you should choose Krell. My homeworld lies in the adjacent system. We know, Mara interjected, and that's why I suggested it. All eyes turned to her. The logs show that humans once helped defend Krath, your homeworld, Commander, against an early Scourge incursion. Before the Council formed, before the Purge. She nodded to Dr. Vorna, who activated a holographic display showing ancient battle footage, human and Krathian vessels fighting side by side against an enemy fleet. Velor stared at the footage, recognition and confusion battling across his features. This contradicts everything in our official history, yet matches the stories your grandfather recorded in his journal. Mara said softly. The journal you referenced in your personal logs, which were backed up to the Council Central Database, which the archivists have been quietly accessing for decades. A murmur ran through the Council delegation. Velor's private research into his family history wasn't widely known. You were right about one thing, Commander. Mara continued. History is a weapon, but it can also be a shield, protecting us from repeating our mistakes. Velor remained silent for a long moment, then straightened to his full height. The Council fleet will cooperate with Terran forces to repel the Scourge incursion at Krell. After that, we will reassess. It wasn't full acceptance, but it was a beginning. As the diplomatic meeting concluded, Jax pulled Mara aside. That was a gamble, bringing up Velor's personal research. This whole mission has been one gamble after another, she replied with a tired smile. Why stop now? You know this changes everything, he said, gesturing to where humans and Council representatives were cautiously interacting. The Council, the fleet, our careers, nothing will be the same. Good, Mara said firmly, that some things need changing. Ensign Talia approached, excitement barely contained. Captain, the human engineers have been showing me their navigation systems. It's incredible. They use quantum entanglement to... Later, Ensign. Mara interrupted gently. Let's focus on surviving the upcoming battle first. Dr. Vorna joined them, her 4 eyes gleaming with intellectual satisfaction. I've been invited to co-author the first Joint Human Council historical analysis. Keeper Lauren will lead the archivist contribution. Mara looked at her assembled officers, no longer just her crew, but partners in a revelation that would reshape galactic society. It seems we've all found our new assignments. And what about you, Captain? Jax asked. Still chasing that admiral's rank? Mara laughed softly. Somehow. I think there are more important things to pursue now. The joint fleet that assembled at the Krell system presented a sight unseen for centuries. Council vessels and human ships in formation together, preparing to engage the approaching Scourge Armada aboard the Aurora's Blade, now repaired and serving as a coordination vessel between the fleets. Mara watched as final preparations were made. Commander Velor's voice came through the comm system. All Council vessels, assume attack formation Delta. Follow the humans' lead on targeting priority. Their experience with Scourge tactics appears substantial. Copy that. Oblivion's hand. Mara acknowledged. All ships stand by for engagement on Captain Reynolds' mark. As the Scourge vessels appeared on long-range sensors, organic-looking ships that moved with unsettling coordination, Mara felt a strange sense of completion. The myth had become reality. The enemy had become an ally. And the truth, so long buried, had finally emerged into the light. "All vessels," Captain Reynolds' steady voice echoed across all frequencies. "Engage." The battle that followed would be recorded in both Council and human archives as the Concordance of Krell, the first joint operation that marked the beginning of a new era. Council precision combined with human tactical innovation proved devastatingly effective against the Scourge, which retreated after losing nearly half their fleet. In the aftermath, as damage reports and casualty lists were compiled, Mara stood in the observation lounge of the Aurora's Blade, watching Council and human repair vessels working side by side. "It's quite a view," came a voice behind her. Commander Velor entered, his usual rigidity somewhat diminished by exhaustion. "Yes," she agreed simply, "it is." "The Council has recalled me to Zirian Prime," he said after a moment, "to explain recent events. Will you tell them the truth?" Velor's mandibles clicked thoughtfully. A dangerous thing, truth, especially when it contradicts centuries of carefully constructed narrative. He turned to face her directly. "But perhaps more dangerous is a civilization built on lies." "You could request support," Mara suggested. "The Human Diplomatic Corps has offered to send representatives." "No," Velor said firmly. "This is a Council matter. We must confront our own history in our own way." His posture softened slightly. "But I would request that you and your crew accompany me, as witnesses." Mara understood the significance of the request. Not prisoners, not heretics, witnesses. "We would be honored, Commander." 1 month later, Mara stood before the full Council of 7 on Zirian Prime, the gleaming capital world where the most powerful beings in known space determined the fate of trillions. The Grand Chamber, with its soaring crystal arches and ancient ceremonial symbols, felt both intimidating and oddly fragile in light of recent revelations. Beside her stood Lieutenant Collis, Dr. Vorna, and Ensign Talia, her crew, her friends, her co-conspirators in unveiling a truth centuries buried. Commander Velor stood at a separate podium, having just completed his testimony regarding the human encounter and subsequent joint operation. The 7 remained silent for what seemed an eternity, their varied physiologies making their reactions difficult to interpret. Finally, the Chief Counselor, a being of pure energy contained within an ornate mechanical shell, spoke. "Captain Mara Levin, your actions violated numerous Council directives. You exposed classified information, collaborated with known heretics, and nearly initiated an interspecies conflict." The Chief Counselor's voice resonated with authority. "Yet you have also presented evidence that challenges the very foundation of Council historical doctrine. Evidence we cannot, in good conscience, dismiss." Murmurs rippled through the gathered dignitaries and representatives. "Therefore, this Council hereby establishes a new commission, the Human Council Historical Reconciliation Project. Its purpose, to examine all records relating to Human Council interactions and establish an accurate historical account, free from political influence." The Chief Counselor's mechanical shell shifted toward Mara. "Captain Levin, this Council names you Herald of the Human Dawn and appoints you as Council liaison to this project." Stunned silence fell over the chamber, broken only when Dr. Vorna failed to contain a small sound of delight. I am honored, Chief Counselor." Mara managed, her voice steady despite her shock. "But there are others more qualified. There are scholars with greater historical knowledge, certainly," the Chief Counselor conceded. "But few with your demonstrated commitment to truth, regardless of personal cost. The quality this commission requires above all others is courage. Captain Levin, you have proven yours beyond question." Commander Velor, to Mara's surprise, nodded in agreement. Later, As Mara and her crew celebrated their unexpected vindication in a private chamber overlooking Zirian Prime's spectacular skyline. Jax raised a glass. To Captain Levin, herald of the human dawn, I always said your ambition would lead somewhere, though I admit I never imagined this particular destination. Mara laughed, the sound lighter than it had been in weeks. To be fair, neither did I. Dr. Vorna, already deeply engrossed in planning her contribution to the Historical Commission, looked up from her datapad. The archivists have granted us full access to their collections. Combined with the human archives and what the Council is now declassifying, we'll be rewriting galactic history for generations. Speaking of humans, Talia interjected, her youthful enthusiasm undiminished by their ordeal. Captain Reynolds has invited me to train with their flight academy for 6 months. Their navigation technology is decades beyond ours. Stealing my pilot, Reynolds? Mara muttered, though her smile remained. I suppose I can spare you for 6 months, Ensign. But I expect you back with every human flight trick mastered. As her crew discussed their future plans and opportunities in this new era of human-council relations, Mara stepped away to the observation window. Below, the lights of Zirian Prime glittered like stars, while above, the actual stars beckoned, countless worlds where the truth would soon spread. Changing perceptions, challenging dogma, opening possibilities. A soft chime announced a visitor. Commander Valor entered, now dressed in civilian attire rather than his military uniform. Commander, Mara greeted him, surprised. I wouldn't have expected to see you at our celebration. Former Commander, he corrected. I've resigned my commission. Because of the humans? Valor moved to stand beside her at the window. Because of the truth. I've served the Council faithfully for decades, believing our cause just and our history sacred. To discover that foundation was built on deliberate deception. He trailed off, mandibles clicking softly. I can no longer command forces in service to an incomplete truth. What will you do now? Mara asked. The Council has appointed me special advisor to the Reconciliation Project. My family's records of the early human interactions may prove valuable. He turned to face her directly. We were enemies, Captain Levin. We may yet find ourselves at odds again as this process unfolds. But I want you to know that I respect what you've done. Truth is uncomfortable. Necessary. But uncomfortable. Mara nodded, understanding the significant concession this represented from the once zealous heresy hunter. Truth often is, Commander, but I've found it's easier to bear in good company, as if summoned by her words. The chamber doors opened again to admit Captain Reynolds and several human diplomats, arriving for the formal celebration dinner. The humans mixed easily with Mara's crew, sharing stories and comparing observations about their respective cultures. Dr. Vorna approached a human historian, their conversation immediately delving into complex questions of archaeological methodology. Talia engaged a human pilot in an animated discussion of flight techniques. Even Jax found himself drawn into a good-natured debate about tactical approaches with a human security officer. Watching them, Mara felt a profound sense of rightness. This was how it should have been centuries ago, different species learning from each other, complementing strengths, mitigating weaknesses. Not perfect, certainly not without future conflicts and misunderstandings, but honest, real. Later that evening, as the formal reception concluded, Dr. Vorna approached Mara with an ancient data crystal in her hands, her 4 eyes blinking in a pattern that indicated intense excitement. And Captain, the archivists just delivered this from their deepest vault. It predates even the records we've been examining. supposedly from the very first human contact with galactic civilization. Mara took the crystal, feeling its weight, both physical and historical. Have you viewed it? Not yet, I thought. Vorna hesitated. I thought perhaps we should discover its contents together, as a crew, as friends. Mara smiled, touched by the sentiment. A fitting end to our adventure. Or beginning, Vorna countered. After all, isn't that what humans represent now? Not an ending of council dominance, but the beginning of something new? As they gathered around a secure data terminal, Mara inserted the crystal with careful reverence. The projection that appeared showed a star field unlike any in current charts. Ancient constellations in positions long since changed by the galaxy's rotation. And into that star field came a vessel of strikingly primitive design, bearing markings in an archaic human script that the translator rendered as Voyager. The image froze there, but its implications were clear. This was the true beginning, the first human emissary to the stars, sent forth long before the council formed, before the wars and lies that followed. There's more to the story than even we've uncovered, Mara realized aloud. More truth waiting to be found. Always is, Jax remarked with his characteristic wry smile. That's what makes the galaxy interesting. As the ancient star field rotated slowly before them, Mara felt the weight of her new responsibility as herald of the human dawn. There would be resistance to the changing narrative, political maneuvering, perhaps even violence from those too invested in the old stories. But there would also be discovery, reconciliation, and the opportunity to build something better than what came before. The myth had become reality, and reality with all its complications and imperfections had proven more valuable than the most comforting lie. Well, she said finally, straightening her shoulders, we have work to do. Around her, human and council species alike nodded in agreement. The past could not be changed, but the future, that remained unwritten, and for the first time in centuries, all species would hold the pen together.